Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, for those of you who geek out on the channel all the time, thank you. You will remember a few months ago, we did these videos right here where we talked about a really scary case. It was the Mexican government suing Smith Wesson and multiple other gun manufacturers for the problems that occur inside of their borders. We said at that time that this was one of the most nefarious ways that legally possible that gun control could be shoved down your throats, and actually shoved down your throats by a foreign government. And the First Circuit appeared to be somewhat complicit in that. However, the good news is it appears that the United States Supreme Court is going to accept review of that case. That is fantastic news. Let's get you all refreshed because you really do need to understand just how important this case is going to be. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about the one Supreme Court case essential to preserving the Second Amendment. Okay, and today's video is brought to us by, okay, so hey, listen, before we get going too far down the road we're going down, I'm proud to announce that this video is being brought to you by, but don't tell anybody, Taylor Freelance. Now, we would love to show you all the cool things that Taylor Freelance is making right here in the United States of America. That's right, because they're based right there in Bellingham, Washington. But here's the deal. If I start showing you all the cool stuff they're making, well, then Google and YouTube, they're going to kind of crap their pants. Let me just say it this way, though. They don't make firearms, got that, Google? But they will make your firearms a lot better. So whether you're looking for base plates, brass back straps, or any other component to make your firearm better fit for your use, well, then you need to go visit my good friends at Taylor Freelance. Now, normally I'd just go ahead and run the little link right down below, but yeah, you see, Google get a little pissed about that too. So instead, that's a link to our partner page right there. You can go there and then you can find the good folks at Taylor Freelance and check out all the cool stuff that they're making, because you know it's cool if YouTube doesn't want it here. Okay, America, the case we're talking about now is entitled Smith Wesson v. Estados Unidos Mexicanos, put other ways, Smith Wesson versus Mexico. This was a lawsuit that was filed by the Mexican government against multiple American firearms manufacturers. The district court threw the suit out. They said, you got a proximate cause issue here. The First Circuit, however, thought that Mexico had a perfectly good claim, despite the fact that there's federal law that says they don't. But hey, why let the law get in the way of some civilian disarmament? And so the First Circuit reinstated this case. This case then was petitioned to the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court has accepted review, which means that the United States Supreme Court has done something rather unique, which they have actually accepted review of a case in an interlocutory, or in the middle of the stream, if you would, okay? And this is big, and this goes to show you just how important this case is and the devastating impacts that would be created if we get the decision wrong. The Mexican government has sued leading members of the American firearms industry, seeking to hold them liable for harms inflicted by Mexican drug cartels. That's right. This suit essentially is that, well, you have all these American firearms manufacturers, and you know what they do? They manufacture firearms, and then they market and they sell firearms. And then somehow or another, all of those firearms are ending up in Mexico, and that's what the Mexican drug cartels use, okay? And somehow or another, this is the firearms manufacturer's fault. According to Mexico, America's firearm companies have engaged in a series of business practices for decades, from selling semi-automatic rifles to making magazines that hold over 10 rounds, to failing to impose various sales restrictions that have created a supply of firearms later smuggled across the border and ultimately used by the cartels to commit crimes. Okay, so somehow or another, these firearms manufacturers are responsible for the illegal activity of third parties, okay? But this is where the danger comes, because you got to understand what Mexico is asking for here. Mexico asked for billions of dollars in damages, plus extensive injunctive relief imposing new gun control measures in the United States. That's right. This is a lawsuit where the country of Mexico is demanding that a United States court implement gun control measures to stop gun violence in Mexico. Now, the questions presented are immensely important and will really demonstrate to you just how important this case is, as the plaintiffs on their petition for review noted. The questions presented are: 1, whether the production and sale of firearms in the United States is the proximate cause of alleged injuries to the Mexican government stemming from violence committed by drug cartels in Mexico. I know you sit there and go, well, of course the answer is no. Why is the Supreme Court even dealing with it? Well, the reason is because the First Circuit Court of Appeals thought that the answer was yes. There's another issue equally as important, which is also presented here. Whether the production and sale of firearms in the United States amounts to aiding and abetting illegal firearms trafficking because firearms companies allegedly know that some of their products are unlawfully trafficked. Okay, so you know or you believe that some of your products may be unlawfully trafficked somewhere else. And what the Mexican government wants these manufacturers to do is to cease manufacturing the products so that they're no longer smuggled across the border. I mean, it's not like the Mexican government wants to do anything about this at all. But you see, the most offensive thing about what the First Circuit did is that we have a federal law going all the way back to 2005. In fact, it's called the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. And it basically says that you don't get to sue firearms manufacturers unless they have acted in such a grotesquely negligent or criminal fashion. And the petitioners point out, hey, listen, there is an exception to this shield of liability. It's just that Mexico can't pierce this shield, as they put it. As relevant here, PLCAA provides an exception, the predicate exception for when a company, 1, knowingly violates a state or federal firearms law, and 2, that violation was a proximate cause of the harm for which relief is sought. But here's the thing. If Smith Wesson was violating state or federal law in the way that they manufactured and distributed firearms, we would all know about it because it would be front page headlines. And so the reason that major American firearms manufacturers are in fact major firearms manufacturers is because they routinely and consistently comply with state and federal law. That's how they remain in business. You know, we as a country have this massive problem of victimhood. Everybody seems to be a victim, and they oftentimes are, but they're a victim of their own poor choices. Well, apparently the Mexican government is suffering from this as well because they believe that all of their problems with gun violence, which is created by drug cartels, is actually caused by American firearms manufacturers. And so, as the petitioners pointed out, Mexico boasts some of the strictest gun laws in the world. The country has only one firearms store, and it's located on a military base. At the same time, Mexico is presently suffering a scourge of violence at the hands of its drug cartels. But rather than take meaningful steps to solve that problem, improving border security, rooting out public corruption, and adequately supporting its police, for starters, the country has instead turned to litigation. And listen, the causal connection between American firearms manufacturing and what is going on in Mexico is basically zero. But that's not stopping the Mexican government from suing these manufacturers, and it didn't stop the First Circuit from allowing this suit to go forward. To point out just how absurd this is, consider when the petitioner stated, all told, the upshot of Mexico's suit is simple enough. The American firearms industry should be responsible for the cartel violence plaguing Mexico. But the path it traces from the above activities to the carnage down south is anything but. In fact, Mexico's complaint relies on an 8-step causal change to support its suit. And listen, you can geek out on the other videos if you want to see this long chain of causal connection, but ultimately, what Mexico wants here is they want a United States court to shut down American firearm manufacturing so that they are more safe in their own country, because they don't want to do anything about it. And as the petitioners again point out, in light of these diffuse harms, the Mexican government seeks far-reaching relief that it claims is available under Mexican tort law, which it says should apply to defendants' conduct in the United States because their firearms are ultimately used to inflict harm in Mexico. So when that pesky little thing called the Constitution gets in the way of civilian disarmament, understand that if this suit is allowed to stand, the United States, or those within the United States, could just employ foreign governments to file lawsuits inside the United States to help disarm you, the lawful and responsible gun-owning American, as the petition also pointed out. And it seeks injunction imposing a barrage of gun control policies, including 1, a ban on assault weapons, 2, a ban on large capacity magazines, and 3, strict limits on multiple sales of firearms. Yep, that's right. Mexico wants American firearms manufacturing to be altered forever because they are unwilling to take care of their drug cartel violence problem. Now listen, one of the reasons this was likely accepted is the First Circuit does kind of stand alone. There have been similar lawsuits brought not only against firearms manufacturers, but against other large companies with this crazy 7 degrees of separation causal connection. The Third Circuit, the Connecticut State Supreme Court, even the Illinois State Supreme Court has not bought off on the same arguments that the First Circuit bought off on. And there is good case law working in favor of Smith Wesson on this. Just a year ago, there was a similar suit brought against Twitter because apparently terrorists were using Twitter. It's called Twitter versus Tamnay. That suit was also thrown out for the same reasons that this suit should be thrown out. Now, one of the things that the petitioners have pointed out, and it's pretty obvious, is that this ruling out of the First Circuit is so egregious, and there is a litany of case law that would warrant reversal of that decision. It is possible that the United States Supreme Court, now that they have accepted review, will not schedule this for oral arguments and rather just issue an order, and that issue would be a summary reversal. That would be a fantastic day for American firearms manufacturers everywhere. But once again, to give you an idea of just how important, and I do mean important, this suit is, consider what the petitioner stated here. First, the logic of the decision below exposes a wide swath of industry to liability for doing nothing more than making available legal and non-defective products that can be criminally misused downstream. And second, Mexico's brazen attempt to regulate the American firearms industry based on its foreign interests poses a grave threat to the sovereignty of the United States, its citizens, and their Second Amendment rights. All of which is absolutely true, but then also consider this. The decision below also has dire implications for American sovereignty, as it allows a foreign government under the guise of litigation to regulate, if not eliminate, the manufacture and sale of common firearms in the United States. Simply put, Mexico detests the American system that makes firearms readily available to law-abiding citizens in accordance with the Second Amendment. An immensely huge case. I am thrilled that the United States Supreme Court has, in fact, accepted review. We will see if it gets scheduled for oral argument, or could we actually see a summary reversal. Okay, the case once again is Smith Wesson et al. Versus Estados Unidos Mexicanos. We're going to go ahead and link up the petition for certiorari, which got this case accepted by the United States Supreme Court, down below so that you can geek out on it for yourself. Kudos to all of the plaintiffs and petitioners on that case. Work well done. Listen, if you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That information is down there in the description box. If you got an idea for a video we should be doing around here, go ahead and click on that link and let us know. It's probably going to be better than any idea we come up with. If you just want to subscribe to our monthly newsletter, the ability to do all of that is right down there in the description box. And then finally, and most importantly, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.